For the past 47 years, I've worked on a whitetail hunting strategy that fits real life. Family, work, and other commitments limit our time. During most of my 33 years in the Navy, I only had 1 week to hunt. My buddies and I usually picked the pre rut or the rut, and no matter where we were stationed, we'd meet up in the hills on public land. Timing was everything. It often decided whether I tagged a buck or went home empty handed. Over the years, I've realized knowing when to hunt is just as important as knowing where, especially for these mature bucks. If your timing is off by a day, you might miss a daylight cruiser. Off by an hour, especially with thermals and a hub, and you may as well have sent him a text and told him you were coming. Here's what's worked for me. Think of timing as a checklist: thermals, wind, weather, and time of year. When all those line up, your odds rise. Save your best spots for when they do, and you'll give yourself the best chance at a mature buck. In the last 5 years, I've been successful on good bucks, and in every hunt, it was the first hunt into those stand setups for that hunting season. Now, I get fired up finding good rut funnels, especially if there's a scrape chain nearby. Even if the chain stretches out a half mile or more, if past years show daylight bucks hammering certain scrapes, I plan hunts around them. The trick is waiting for the right conditions: thermals, weather, and time of year. If we hunt too early or when thermals are wrong, you can burn that spot pretty quick. Learning to time hunts has made all the difference in my success on mature bucks. In low deer density big woods, you may have to sit a spot multiple times, but in a lot of hill country, it pays to wait and surprise them. Blow him out early, and he might not come back to that spot in daylight for quite some time. Examine this map. It's private, 100% forested and hardwoods, with no recent timber cuts or agriculture nearby. The 1.2 mile area between the scrapes is about 140 acres. I want to know which scrapes are most productive each year. You can track them year after year with trail cameras, but if not, use your woodsmanship, preferably after season ends when the sign is fresh. Once you know the best scrapes, connect them logically during e-scouting with confirmation in January or February with boots on the ground. Now let's look at these hubs to learn in August what we can use during hunting season. Most bucks trust thermals and wind to survive. Cool air drops downhill, carrying your scent. If you hunt too early, rising thermals will push your scent straight to a bedded buck. But if you hunt too late, he might be already moving down the secondary ridges and even already in the hub. The only exception is when a strong wind overpowers the thermal. Then you can hunt as long as the wind direction is right for your stand. Trust Caltopo's sun exposure layer, but always verify it with milkweed or cattail fluff. I use Caltopo's shaded relief and normal, slope angle shading and gradient, and sun exposure layers to change the month and the time of day to see which slopes cool first. When the sun heats up slopes facing the sun, thermals start rising on morning hunts. In this example of an east-facing hub at 10 a.m. in November, it's about time to check out and quietly leave the area, or your scent will start to rise up the slopes, warmed by the sun and yellow on the map. The risk of alerting a buck up high is too great, in my opinion, to remain in the stand location, so it's best to relocate up high or leave the area altogether. Of course, the opposite might be true for an afternoon hunt. Slip in just before the afternoon thermal switch, but not before. In this thermal hub, that time is 5 p.m. in November, and keep in mind that every thermal hub in a creek bottom or on topo hub situation up high in elevation will be unique. So my advice is to check each case independently. Sun exposure helps me time access on hunts, but I always verify the thermals and the timber with milkweed. You can buy milkweed pretty cheap on Etsy, and a big bag of this stuff will last a long time. Apps such as Caltopo help, but the woods really tell the truth. I learned the hard way not to rush in. We've all been there at least once. You get to the base of your tree and one starts blowing halfway up a secondary ridge. You're going to bump deer, but it's a must to try and limit that inevitability with knowledge that you build studying these maps and verifying these thermals in the woods, and by putting the odds in your favor to increase your chances. I like to hang back about 300 yards until the milkweed starts to hang up, get suspended in the air, never rising or falling. Then slip in, climb up quiet, and be immediately ready with bow or weapon of choice. Sometimes you only have 45 minutes to an hour of good light, but that's enough to surprise a buck checking a scrape in a hub, as opposed to him smelling you as he comes down the ridge because you went in just a bit too early. If you go in too early, might as well pack in a bullhorn and yell up the ridge when you get there, because if he doesn't hear you, he's certain to smell you. For most hunts, I check wind direction and speed, cloud cover, and temperatures. Those calm, clear, cold evenings are golden, especially in bottoms, because thermals pull strongest and predictably. On cloudy evenings, heat lingers, thermal swirl, and the switch happens later, or sometimes not at all. Sometimes it's too risky. I've learned to wait until milkweed proves the switch, or I'll just back out and save that spot for another day when conditions will put the odds in my favor. The last thing you want is a buck catching your scent under a low cloud ceiling. I've had the best luck on dropping temperatures, especially those below 45 degrees, with clear skies or light, high clouds. Test it every hunt with your milkweed, and you'll soon become an expert at reading the switch for a given stand location. Timing also shifts with the calendar. Late pre-rut, mature bucks hit generational scrapes. Big ones in hubs, scrapes mid-slope with rub lines, or hot scrapes near doe bedding. During the rut, it's about doe bedding and the terrain funnels connecting them. I set up where trails converge, pinches with compounding terrain features. If I only had a week for post-rut, I'd hunt long-distance travel routes, funnels that connect bottoms across ridges, sometimes miles apart, and I like to link scrapes, rubs, lee-side trails, and look for edges of cover, steep drainages, or cliff lines. The oldest bucks travel them at odd hours, even midday. I treat pre-rut, rut, and post-rut by the same rules. Thermals first, wind second, calendar third, and weather always. Skip one and you might as well leave dirty socks in your best rut funnel. Cold front, be in your best stand all day, even if it means 11 hours on a foam pad. I base scrape chain timing on postseason scouting, trail cam history, and past hunts. For pre-rut, I like to wait for that first cold front or a calm, clear evening right after a cold front. In my area, that's early October into early November. That's when bucks hit scrapes in daylight. Hunt too early and you risk burning the chain. If I'm after scrapes up high, I think of thermals like chimneys. Scent pulls down pre-dawn, rises midday, then falls again in the evening. If you set up where thermals flow into terrain deer avoid, like steep bluffs, deep drains, or creek bottoms, you stay hidden. Get it wrong and you'll tip deer off before they're close. Match time of year, thermals, wind, and weather, and you're hunting smart. That's what's worked for me, and I hope it helps you too. For more on how I hunt these hill country bucks, check out the other videos on this channel. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. And I hope you have a great 2025 hunting season.